Alright, now we're going to try to finish it up here in this last segment of the video. So what we got to do is, first thing, this is the bracket. You see, like I said, I would trim that tab off that normally is on the 353, 346. Get these down in there. We're going to try to remedy that problem it was having with burning the case and with burning the top cover. While we're at it, and this should do both. Alright, so what I got to do is pull this top screw. Pull this top screw and then pull the bottom. I just loosen the bottom screw so it can give me a little room at the top. Like that. Slide this up there. Just want to make sure we get them started. We don't want to strip nothing. Alright, that is going. A lot of times on these new cylinder heads, you want to just make sure the threads are good and you're not going to strip them out when they're brand new and having to put a Healy coil in them. Alright, now we'll come, before I tighten that up, I'm going to go ahead and put this one back in here, because a lot of times you tighten that top one up first, you can't get this bottom hole in the bracket to align because you got to it's got tension on it. And that tension actually helps them top screws stay tight. Now I can tighten these down. Alright, it's starting to look like a chainsaw now. Alright, now let's work on getting the oil pump installed. Now we're going to lay the so that's good. Now I clean this up. Now this is going to go back on here. Back down. I'm going to inspect this worm here. It looks good. So we're going to put a little bit of lube on the inside of this. This is Ultra Slicks, all this is. We'll grease this once we get this all put back together. I just want to make sure the hole is open. Some of them have a hole, some of them don't. This one does not, so I'm gonna grease this before we put it back on. Now I'm gonna drop this back down on there. Make sure it's spinning good. We're gonna remember it's lefty tighty, righty loosey. It's backwards threads here on the clutch. And what I normally do here, so I don't forget, when we start to, before we crank it, I go ahead and put the side cover on because this clutch is loose. I normally don't really tighten this clutch much. I tap it down and then I let the power from the engine actually finish tightening it up. But if you forget and leave the side cover off, she'll spin off and ain't no telling where all the parts and pieces wind up at the kind of rate of speed they're spinning at. Let's go ahead and stick the cylinder spring back on here. Let's get the brake handle. So what we'll do is this little spring we took out, we're going to stick it back in first. Alright. And then we just pull it over and line it up. You push in and it'll drop down in there so it's a little slotty. It drops down in there and then we'll just put these little collar screws back in. You know, this is the part of the build that I always like right here in these last few steps, because you know you're fixing to get to hear the result of your work come alive, and I never gets old hearing one come alive for the first time, and hearing that little bit of a I mean, once you get these mufflers open, this one's open, they got that little crackle to them. I just love it. All right, let's throw a new. We're gonna throw a new plug in this thing. Okay. That was running, so I don't ever throw them away. But on a new build like this, I want to go with a new plug. Alright, I'm going to inspect this here and make sure it's working like it should. There's no carbon in here. Spray this thing with a little carburetor cleaner. Get it as clean as we can, because we don't want that thing leaking. Oh yeah. Get it back in there. Socket right here. Put that one up. Nice when these bins start getting empty. That's the old fuel line. Means you're getting close. We're just down to the brake handle now. Wipe it up good. Oh. Get some more wipes. Wipe this off good. Missed this one. Went to the wash bay earlier, so it needs to wipe it down. Alright. Now, slide it under the back of the saw like that. Let it go down there to it. Just let it rest natural. It'll find a natural resting place. We will put the, wipe this off. Remember the two shorter screws goes in the front of the when you put these in, there's 3 long screws on these handles, 2 short screws. 2 short screws always go under the bottom because you don't have as much to work with under there. The 3 longer screws always go on the clutch side. I'm going to crank it and make sure it don't need a tuning before we actually, before I put this top cover on, which is easier to see what I'm doing. I won't run it long without the top cover because that can run them hot. Well, we got enough in there. Let me make sure we got plenty of, oh yeah, we still got plenty of fuel line in there because I remember I had to pull a little bit forward because I had to trim a little bit by the carburetor. Make sure I got a little bit of oil still in it. Yeah, a little bit of oil in there. Let's pump a bubble. Here's prime. Here's prime. Top cover back on it, and so I want to run it a minute and just kind of tune on it a little. And I don't want it sitting there getting hot. But we're gonna have to do some braking runs on the cylinder and piston, but I don't want to really rev on it real hard yet. I'm just trying to really make sure that the low side's kind of where I'd like it, and also the idle, it's idling good. So let's crank it back up. There you have it. I'm gonna put it out in the yard and let it sit there and idle for a while, and I'll come back at a later point in time after I get the cylinder broke in, and we'll do some wood cutting with it. All right, have a good one.